Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer met today in Ankara to sign what both leaders described as a landmark defence agreement between Turkey and the United Kingdom. The contract commits Ankara to purchase 20 new Eurofighter Typhoon jets from the UK in a deal officials say is worth around £8 billion, roughly $10.7 billion US. In his remarks immediately following the signing, President Erdogan emphasised the broader strategic significance of the agreement, telling the audience that the implementing regulations regarding the acquisition of Eurofighter Typhoon fighters were signed during the interdelegation meetings. A few moments ago, we also signed the Declaration of Cooperation on this subject with Mr. Starmer in your presence. As two close allies, we consider this step as a new symbol of our strategic relations. He went on to say that he believed the collaboration with the UK would also pave the way for joint projects in the defence industry. Prime Minister Starmer, for his part, underscored the historic nature of the moment. This is a historic moment reflecting the growing depth and breadth of our existing cooperation, as well as our ambition to go further. At the heart of this is our agreement today that the UK will supply Turkey with 20 new Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft with the possibility of supplying more in the future. He added, "So this is an historic day." I want to thank Mr. President for his hospitality, the warm welcome that he showed to us today and his partnership. I look forward to delivering these shared ambitions, strengthening our work together and being back here in Ankara for the NATO summit next year. The agreement signed at the Presidential Palace in Ankara marks the UK's first new Typhoon order since 2017 and signals a deepening defence relationship between London and Ankara. The UK defence industry, led by BAE Systems, reported that the deal is expected to recognise around £4.6 billion of its business under the export contract. The Eurofighter consortium, comprised of partners in the UK, Germany, Italy and Spain, has cleared the way for the sale to Turkey after earlier delays and political hurdles. From Ankara's perspective, the deal serves multiple purposes. Turkey's ageing fleet of F-16 and other fighters face increasing pressure given regional tensions, including security threats emanating from Syria, Iraq and the broader Eastern Mediterranean region. And Ankara has been keen to modernise its air force capability ahead of the rollout of its indigenous fifth-generation TF Khan fighter programme. By acquiring the Typhoon jets, Turkey closes a capability gap while synchronising its procurement policy with a key NATO ally. For the UK, the deal is equally significant. It reinforces London's role as a major defence exporter, supports thousands of jobs in the UK aerospace sector, and strengthens NATO's eastern flank by equipping a major member state with advanced combat aircraft. Analysts note that by finalising the deal now, the UK sends a signal both to Russia and to other powers of NATO cohesion and export strength. Within the Turkish domestic context, the agreement plays well for President Erdogan's agenda. It underscores his ambition to reposition Turkey as a major defence player that not only procures but increasingly co-develops with Western partners. It also provides ballast ahead of future technology cooperation and offsets criticism regarding Turkey's previous exclusion from the US-led F-35 programme in 2019 after its S-400 purchase. However, the deal also raises a series of questions and challenges. The specific timeline for delivery remains somewhat opaque. Industry sources estimate that first deliveries may not occur until around 2030. The financial burden of the acquisition and the long-term operational cost will place demands on Turkey's defence budget and infrastructure. Furthermore, certain political obstacles remain. Germany's earlier reluctance to approve exports of the Typhoon to Turkey speaks to underlying concerns about Ankara's human rights record and broader foreign policy divergence. Though those export hurdles appear to have been cleared, observers will watch closely whether future sales encounter renewed friction. In parallel, broader regional dynamics are at play. Turkey's procurement comes at a time when the Eastern Mediterranean, the Middle East and the Caucasus are experiencing heightened military competition. Israel, Iran, Russia and others are all modernising their air and missile arsenals, leaving Turkey with an imperative to keep pace. The Typhoon deal, therefore, is not merely a bilateral transaction. It intersects with NATO's strategy of deterrence, Turkey's posture vis-à-vis Syria, Iraq and the Black Sea, and the UK's role in sustaining European defence manufacturing. From an industrial perspective, the agreement has important spin-offs. UK aerospace firms will supply components and final assembly, and the weapons integration segment is expected to be conducted by MBDA and allied partners. The job creation figures cited, around 20,000 jobs in the UK aerospace and defence sector, reflect the scale of the export. For Turkey, the deal opens pathways for co-production, maintenance support, and possibly future offsets or technology transfer, though the full details have yet to be publicly disclosed. The symbolism of the deal is also noteworthy. As President Erdogan stated, as two close allies, we consider this step as a new symbol of our strategic relations. For a country that has often straddled multiple geopolitical alignments, aligning itself with the UK through this major purchase reinforces Ankara's NATO credentials and underlines its European defence partnerships. Similarly, Prime Minister Starmer's remarks that the UK will return to Ankara for the NATO summit next year reflect the forward-looking template of the deal, not a one-off sale, but a basis for sustained collaboration. In the immediate aftermath of the signing ceremony, both leaders appeared relaxed and affirming. They exchanged handshakes, walked together from the conference room in the presidential palace and posed for photographs. The moment drew attention from international media and reflects the growing convergence between London and Ankara in defence and diplomacy. Looking ahead, the execution phase will now begin. Turkey will need to finalise financing, ensure integration of the systems into its air force structure, receive training and logistics support, and plan upgrades and sustainment. The UK will need to manage supply chain commitments, ensure export compliance, and coordinate with its Eurofighter partners. Success in those areas will determine whether the deal lives up to its promise. Moreover, the broader strategic implications will unfold over years. If Turkey follows through on the purchase and possibly opts for further additional jets as the agreement allows, then regional force balance calculations will shift. Turkey may be better positioned in Eastern Mediterranean patrols, Black Sea deterrence scenarios, and in its NATO commitments. Simultaneously, the UK strengthens its role as a premier defence exporter and partner. In sum, today's signing in Ankara is more than a commercial contract. It is a diplomatic declaration, an industrial milestone, and a strategic pivot. It demonstrates how defence procurement can serve as an anchor for alliance politics, industrial cooperation, and regional security. The 20-jet deal is the headline, but its real significance may lie in the long-term framework of UK-Turkey defence collaboration that follows. As global competition in air power intensifies and as alliances shift and realign, the UK-Turkey Typhoon deal stands out as a marker of where NATO's non-traditional partnerships can lead. Joint industry, shared capabilities, and a convergence of strategic interests. For Turkey, it offers a leap forward in air power. For the UK, it offers a reassertion of defence industrial export capability. And for NATO, it offers an opportunity to reinforce a frontline member's combat readiness. For observers and analysts, the key questions now will be how swiftly the jets are delivered, how effectively Turkey integrates them, whether further purchases follow, how the deal affects Turkey's relations with the United States, given its past exclusion from the F-35 programme, and how regional competitors respond. The answers will determine whether this is simply a transactional sale or the start of a deeper, enduring partnership. Finally, as President Erdogan noted and as Prime Minister Starmer echoed, this is a new symbol of our strategic relations. But symbols require substance, and the coming years will test whether this symbol becomes enduring. For now, the contract has been signed, the handshake completed, and the announcement made. The real work begins now, establishing capability, forging joint industrial links, and aligning strategic vision. Today in Ankara matters. The jets that will take to the skies in the years ahead will underscore why it mattered.